Good morning, cuties. So I'm getting back in the hang of making videos just for the hell of it. Gotta expose myself, gotta get out there again. You know, you would think 8 years of doing this consistently or semi-consistently, I would feel less insecure about it, but that's the human experience, right? We are we ebb and flow. And especially if you have anything with some true heart that you're putting out there, it can be a challenge sometimes to really be yourself and show up to the world. And because you never know who it's going to reach and all of these things, but getting really anchored in your why and just like get out of your own head, because with any kind of transformation and healing, we are our own worst enemy. The way that we can superimpose these perception filters upon us that are old and outdated and still need to be reminded, like, hey, you're not living rent-free in my head anymore. Go back to Creator to deal with you, because you're not living here. You know, like these old programs, they just take a little bit of time. With consistency and practice, you just keep rebuking and you keep realizing the unreality of its place in your life. Anything that's telling you that you're something that you're not, anything that's making you question your validity in this world. I mean, the list goes on and on of all the things that we tell ourselves in our heads, but it's usually coming down to breaks down to some core thing, and it's a lot of it is universal for so many of us. So I am just going to keep showing up on here and just sharing my experiences and what I know from what I've gone through, and hopefully it helps and resonates with the ones that are meant to find it. And, you know, I'll just pause there for a second, because when one of my last videos, when I was talking about you can get into the emotional body, a lot of, power can be had. And I realized, like, that is only the case if you are still identifying with a certain identity and belief about the world and who you think that you are. If there are no hooks on the inside to be grabbed from the outside and hooked from the outside, then there's nothing there. So I just wanted to reiterate and just like clarify that we can only be truly affected emotionally and mentally from the bottom up if the top is not right with God, right with, like, if you're still wearing masks at the identity level. And I can go into more depth about like what's the difference and what's going on here with these different levels, the 4 lower bodies, as they call it. It's like you have your I am presence, which is an extension of God, and it stays in the spiritual realm where nothing can touch it. It can't be affected. It's basically, when you can think about it, like your spiritual archives and library, where it's collecting information from your conscious you, from your conscious experience here on earth, right? But it can't be affected. Like, no matter what trauma you've been through, like your conscious you is going through that, right? But it's sending information. It's just information is going to the I am presence to collect like data for your experience here on this earth. And it's not affected by trauma. It's not affected by it. Nothing can come from the unascended realm to the spiritual realm. There's like a process, like no evil can penetrate heaven. It's just not built like that. It's just not how it works. In the beginning, you were created. Your I am presence was already an extension. And it's like a projected stream of consciousness, like I said, from Creator, from Source. It's your spiritual self. And it projects itself into the material realm. And through this, your Christ self, your conscious you, your 4 lower bodies were formed. It's like clothing for the soul. They were formed. giving you the means to which you can navigate the material realm, because without that, you're just this like formless, it can't happen. You can't descend into the material world without creating a vehicle. And so originally these bodies were pure, right? But over lifetimes, they gather these distortions from traumas that are experienced. And so you start to identify yourself as a separate being. You start to forget who you really are as an aspect and extension of God. And you start to see the world as separate. And so hence you start to walk in the world through these distortions of reality, and then start to acquire that into your field. And so all of a sudden it's just like, I was abandoned by God, or I'm separate being from them. They're trying to hurt me. I'm in this hellhole called Earth, you know, all the different things. And so, but I have my notes actually. So I just want to be very clear to identify what the identity body is and subsequent bodies after that, because they're not like these physical forms. It's more of like subtle energy matrices that interface between you and your spiritual self in the outer life. Okay. So like I said, they were created as extensions of your divine identity, your I am presence, your extension, your little extension of creator, right? And it allows you to express yourself here. And your identity body is like the closest to your I am presence, because it holds your sense of self, your identity, your beliefs about your role here, and your sense of purpose. And this was originally designed to mirror your divine identity, and over time it can, like I said, accumulate pollution, basically. And so when you realign yourself at the identity level, with your divine blueprint or your divine plan, it clears out that pollution and returns it to like the immaculate concept and the origination of who you really truly are. When you can shift that identity level, everything, it's a top-down effect, because then all of a sudden you start to think differently. You start to have, obviously, if you're thinking differently, then your emotional reality is different. But sometimes these grooves, they take some time to get out. And so again, about thinking, your mental body. So it's lower, obviously, it's top down. Here's a beautiful pyramid. Boom, boom, boom. That's a triangle, that's for sure. And it's mirrored. So just identities here, mental is here, emotional and physical, right? And so it holds the thoughts, the concepts, and the beliefs, and the logic, and the analytical mind, right? And it was created to enable reasoning and co-creation. So this gives you the ability to co-create, because you can think and out-picture something and create it and make it happen, right? In the material world, excuse me, that wasn't even a word. So when that becomes distorted, it holds dualistic or fear-based beliefs. Yeah, isn't that right? And so when you purify the mind from those false images, you know, and beliefs, and replace them with truth, everything's kind of in coherence. And the reason why I focus on this top-down effect is because when you can get to the identity level, it just makes everything easier. When you're trying to work from the bottom up, that's how this world is actually ran. We think if we can just put a fucking patch on it or take a pill, everything's fine, which, you know, there are things that you can do, like eating well, that can help, because there's a lot of energy that can be bound up, because the lower you go into these identity and these bodies, these etheric bodies, the more dense things become. Like thoughts are more dense than an identity. Emotions are more dense than thoughts. Your leg is more dense than your emotions. And so, so the emotional body also could be known as, like, you know, your desire body. And that's obviously lower than the mental. It functions, it holds feelings, desires, emotional reactions. And it's designed to energize your actions with divine enthusiasm and love. So when you outpicture something, you're not just like seeing an image in your head. It's like the emotion that comes from it, right? It's the energy that powers everything. You know, it's the lower chakras. It's the solar plexus. It's the heart. It's, you know, it's the root chakra, sacral energy. And, but obviously, you know, it can become imbalanced with anger and fear and unresolved trauma. And a lot of us have a lot of things bound up in the emotional body. Excuse me. They really like cardboard. And so that's where, like, things like the violet flame, emotional honesty, going to therapy, you know, surrendering to life and not trying to be a control freak all the time, using your spiritual tools like I've talked about all the time, you know, mantras, dancing, singing, somatic tools, again, that I've been practicing for years of my life because I had to get myself back into coherence because I had so much trauma that was unresolved. It's like a constant, it was just really hard to be here. Honestly, it was really hard to function. And then obviously your physical body, that's the densest level. And it includes like the biochemical reality of who we are, like our hormones, our energetic layers of the material form. And so this is the vehicle. This is the vehicle that you interface with, between reality with, you know, the spiritual and material world. This is the vehicle. And that allows you to take action. So you think it, you feel some feelings about it, you act on it, you know? And it's designed to be a temple for spirit, which is why I have devoted, I mean, ever since that I became conscious on the path at 18 years old, I have been taking meticulous care for my body as much as I could, with food, diet, but also like stress patterns and cycles, and learning to be like, okay, this isn't good for me to be in this relationship, for example, or this isn't a good job for me to be in, working at a bar where people are smoking all the time. Like, this isn't the environment that I want to be in, and I want to have, and that's where we use our free will to choose what we actually want for ourselves in our lives. And so it's like, well, I know what I don't want. That's the cool thing about planet Earth. You don't always have to know right away what you want. Some people do. Some people are just like gung-ho in a certain lifetime, and they're just like, I know exactly what I want, boom, 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 boom. But for other people, it can be a process of elimination. It's like, well, I know what I don't want, that's for sure. I've been there, done that. So what is the opposite of that? Or what is not that? So it's a process of elimination. Because some of us just come here to learn certain lessons rather than to make something manifest materially. And it can be both. But if you have like a lot of karma that you've accrued with like a lot of people, it manifests as like having multiple relationships with people and having a public platform and working with people. It can be like you learn about yourself through other people. You know, I think that's a lot of what I'm here to do, is like, I've had a public platform since I was 20 years old. And I've influenced and impacted people, and it's been mutual for 10 years of my life, you know? And before that, it's like, we don't realize, like, us people in this world, it's so funny, we don't actually realize the impact that we have, and like, it's profound. Even if you're never on social media, like, the fact that like you can influence somebody's day at a store and the people that they influence from that and how they're changed by you from there. No, we are not eating a basket. I'm such a mom. Like, no, we are not doing this. We don't eat baskets. So I did not anticipate sharing this with you this morning, but I'm really glad that I did, because I feel like it's important. And maybe one day soon I'll have my little whiteboard and I'll have a diagram showing you everything. But for now, we're working with what I've got, and a part of my process is to just like do the things that I don't want to do, you know, and healing is a part of that. Like the slow dopamine is what I like to call it. You write your to-do list, and there's shit on that to-do list that you don't want to do, but baby, it's going to get you closer to where you want to be and what you want to, in alignment with who you want to be and what you want to do. Do it. Just do it. And then you get to tick it off, and you build this rapport with yourself and this reputation with yourself. Like, yeah, I do things that I don't want to do. Because don't let your mood or your feelings dictate what you need to do. And I'm learning to create the discipline to get what I want, instead of just accept what I'm handed. Because when you're just accepted what's given, you're just kind of like a garbage dump, and then you don't have boundaries, and you're just like accepting what life throws at you, like any relationships that come in, and like the shitstorm that can come from that, you know, any life experiences or environments you can just like accept, because it's, oh, well, this is where I'm at, so I just got to make the best of it. Yeah, you make the best of it. You do your best, and that you can do, but you also, it's like, have some self-respect, and like, what is it that you really want? This isn't coming from ego. It's just like, okay, this is clearly not in alignment, and now I'm gonna detail why, and all the things that I'm grateful for as well. Like, that was like this dichotomy I was putting myself in with my living situation with my house. And, you know, I was just like, but it's a home, and I'm grateful, and all the things. And I'm like, yeah, and it's not like where you're meant to live and breathe and die for the rest of your life. Come on, let's move on. Change is inevitable. Get with the program. Like, you're not going to die if you move from your house. Like, girl, people do it all the time. But in my head, I had created such an attachment associated with survival, because I found the house in the middle of COVID with a freaking 3.5-month-old, you know, and it was a lot of trauma at that time. You know, COVID years were really traumatic for me, and being a new mom and all that. And so we have to disengage from the trauma, right? The felt sense, step away from it, use these EMDR tactics, create a safe space so we can distance ourselves from the stimulus of the thing, so that way we can actually look at it with objective eyes, instead of like the filter of the thing that created it in the first place. And oh my God, like, no, come on. There's no adult in the room then. Even if trauma's happened to you in an adult state of being, when you experience trauma, it activates a different part of the brain than the prefrontal cortex, let me tell you. And we can't always be living from the amygdala in this reptile state of being, reptile mind. It's not fun. It's exhausting. That's survival. This is all survival. It's beautiful. It's so sophisticated. Oh my God. It can figure out an issue and a problem. It's very resourceful. I'm a very resourceful person. I'm very intelligent because this has been so activated all my life and beyond, you know? And it takes wisdom, deep wisdom and skill, though, to implement and utilize this and not react all the time. You know what I mean? This takes skill and practice and repetition and slow dopamine and the day to day work. It's not about instant gratification. But if you keep up with it, you'll look up very soon and realize, like, oh my God, I'm not thinking the same that I once was, or I'm not acting in the same ways, or I'm different. Something's different. What happened? Miracles happen. But the miracles, that comes from that divine assistance through, you know, your spiritual team and you doing your spiritual practice and using those tools. But it's in addition to the physical work that you do for yourself on a day-to-day basis. Because if you're a really mentally, emotionally, spiritually aligned and healthy individual, your physical reality reflects that. You carry yourself in a different way when all of you is healthy. And if you're anything like me, thinking that you're more spiritually evolved than you were, okay, well, if that was the case, then why is your physical reality like not reflecting coherence and health and peace and abundance? Because you've got some blind spots. And we're going to work on it. And everything's fine. There's nothing wrong with you. But we're going to work on it. The best thing that you can ask is to help me see what I can't see. Humble yourself. What a beautiful morning video. Oh, I'm going to edit this and I'll post it, make a cute little thumbnail, and I'll see you on the other side.